right, what's up, everybody? It's on the Relevant app. I am going live on YouTube, and this is the first time that I will be uh, recording this on the Relevant app. So we'll see how the audio goes. Normally, when I do YouTube Live, I've never recorded any of it before on the Relevant app. So this will be the first time that we are trying to record this on the Relevant app, so you guys will hear all the audio and all the interactions that go on with my audience from the YouTube Live stuff. For those of you that are out there that are joining the YouTube Live, thanks so much for being here. Sorry I had to delete the first post. There's some changes in the YouTube studio, and I couldn't figure out exactly how to get back to the live video that I set up the way I used to get back into it. So I had to cancel that one and then just go live right from here. So to everybody that's joining me tonight, thanks so much for joining me. I thought I'd talk a little bit about offensive diversity. I know every time we go YouTube Live, we do, or I do some type of topic. You guys that join and get in the chat box can ask any questions you want. The topic can be on anything you want, but YouTube asks you to name the topic, so I figured I'd name the topic offensive diversity. Willie Flynn, good evening, sir, from Alpharetta, Georgia. How are you? So those of you on the Relevant app, if any of you are listening or listening to this afterwards, I have a chat box. When people join in or they ask questions, I can see who they are. So Dan Powers, hello, buddy. How are you? So I did a video today on counter, on GT counter, and then GF counter, or OT counter, OF counter, whatever your terminology is that you want to call it. And I talked about why I would carry both. And one of the reasons in the video I mentioned I would carry both is because, one, we can carry as a quarterback run, bash, back away sweep theory, and we can read first level player, a down lineman, a 5 technique, a 4-eye, whatever it may be, and we can incorporate a quarterback run into it. And then I talked about running OF or GF counter using a tight end, H-back, whatever your personnel is, as the second puller, and he becomes the wrapper. And then when we do that, we're going to throw RPOs off of that. So I wanted to talk a little bit today on YouTube Live and get into a little bit about where offensive diversity has gone in the last 10, 15 years compared to when I started as a football coach. And when I first started as a football coach, one of the things that I thought with offensive diversity, I thought it meant that you had to have 15 formations and you had to run 15 different schemes. And I tried to be one of those coaches that was a jack of all trades, master of none. I thought that offensive diversity was this grab bag of all these things that you could run to be so different, so that you were running all these different schemes to try and be diverse, and some different personnel groups and some different formations to try to be as diverse or as multiple, if you want to use the word multiple, as possible. And as the game evolved, what I started finding out was simple schemes allow you the diversity nowadays to do different things within one blocking scheme. So, hello, Mia. My youngest daughter, Mia, is here. Say hello to YouTube Live.
Hi.
Also, say hello to the Relevant app because I'm recording this live. Hey, there you go. All right, so I'm live on your phone there. You're live on your phone.
Grace's face.
Oh, hey, Grace. So I thought that offensive diversity, would be something different. And now that I'm older and I've been coaching for a while, I realize that there are very simple schemes that you can use, and you can provide diversity in those schemes by changing up who you're reading while using the same blocking scheme. So something like counter, we can go GT counter and pull the offside guard and the offside tackle, and we can read a 5 technique. That's Bear. There's Big Bear, one of our cats in the video. So we could read a 5 technique and make it a double option play, make it a quarterback run. Then we can turn around and run OF counter, use the sniffer or a fullback as a wrapper, and now we can hinge the backside and block the 4-eye, the 5, whoever it is, and feel more secure for the quarterback so that we can throw an RPO. So now, see, so now off the same schemes, we are creating diversity within that scheme. You could change the personnel group into formation, and now you could use, from a 10 personnel group, you could use jet motion and run the same GT bash theory and use the jet guy as the outside run component and still have the quarterback run component tied into it. So the diversity nowadays in offenses is so much different than it used to be. And maybe it's because I'm older and been coaching a while and maybe a little bit wiser, who knows. But we're building diversity into our scheme using the same theories, building things off the same family, the same tree, so that when we teach the counterplay and the front side is gap down backer and they're working gap down to backside backer, and we have a pull kick and a pull wrap, just by changing who the wrapper is, we can now build diversity into the offense. And one of the other things that creates diversity is when we run the bash theory, where it's an outside run, reading a first level defender, 4-eye, 5 technique, whatever the end man on the line might be. When we build that into the play, we leave the sniffer or the Y off or the tight end, whatever you want to call that position. We leave him on the front side of the outside run, and he is opposite of where the guard tackle pullers are going. So now we're building in some different tendencies. If you want to read things off of our sniffer, H-back, tight end, if you think that's a guy that takes you to the ball most of the time, now we're building in different offensive tendencies within the diversity as well. So now when we run GT counter, our sniffer, tight end, Y off stays on the front side. But then when we run GF or OF counter, the sniffer actually becomes the wrapper. So on one of the plays, the sniffer is going to take you to the front side of the run. But on one of the other plays, he's going to create a different tendency that he stays on the front side of the sweep run, but he's actually away from the quarterback counter part of the run. So, you know, we're building the diversity into the scheme, and we're also giving some false keys and some different things. So we're breaking some of our own tendencies while we are building the diversity into the offense. And there's so many different ways you can do this. You know, you can do the same thing with the power play. You can have the power play that is a standard base power play with a kick out and a backside guard wrapping. Then you can run power read, where you can read a 5 technique and arc release a Y off or a sniffer, and you can mesh with a tailback. You can bring jet motion into the power read, and you can mesh with the jet guy. You can run toss power read and now have the tailback on the same side running toss action and the quarterback shuffling, reading, and either tossing or running quarterback power. You can run traditional power with an RPO and now read a second or third level defender and throw off of that extra player. So what we're doing nowadays in offensive theory is we're building diversity into our offense while teaching the same blocking schemes to our players. And the reason that is important is because you want to be multiple and you want to be diverse with what you're doing, but you want to be simplistic for your own players. So by building multiplicity and diversity into the power counter scheme, you can get 1,000,000 reps blocking power counter. And then by changing the back end or changing the quarterback run portion of it and reading a first level defender and then reading a second level defender and adding in an RPO or a throw to it, you're now creating the multiplicity, the diversity. You're building in all the things you want, but your O-line is still blocking power. So whether I block traditional power with a kick out or I read a 5 technique, 5 of my linemen, the front side guys are down gap to backside backer, the center blocks back, the backside guard skip pulls for front side backer, the backside tackle hinges. I can rep that scheme with my linemen versus every front, every look, everything that we're going to see. And I can get hundreds of reps running that scheme while still building multiplicity into the scheme. That to me is where I am so much better now as a coach than I was 15, 20 years ago, because I would have changed schemes and I would have, hey, David, '91 Syracuse FSU coach. Love it. Syracuse is a long way from Long Island, but we're still New York, so I love it. I would have thought that the diversity in my scheme came from running toss, belly, ISO, counter, power. I would have thought that the diversity in my scheme came from running all these different schematical plays that made it tough on the defense. And at a young age, what I learned the hard way was we never got good at anything because all we did was run these different schemes that we never got enough time to rep against the different fronts we were going to see. So we never really got good at the things we were running because I was so worried about running so many things that we couldn't get good at anything. And now as I'm older and the game's changed a little bit with RPOs and quarterback runs and read game and bash or, back away sweep plays, whatever you want to call them. We've got to a point where we've learned now within our offense and within our tempo stuff that we're trying to do that we can be multiple within the same schematics. And what that allows us to do is that allows us to get the repetitions that we need to block certain plays versus every look that we're going to see while still having diversity in the offense. That's where you need to be going when you study all the best offenses out there in college or, even in the NFL. If you look at a team like the 49ers and you look at what they do with the wide zone, they run wide zone so many ways from so many personnel groups with so many wrinkles off a wide zone that the diversity in the offense in the wide zone play alone is just so dynamic and so so different for the defenses to have to fit every version of that wide zone play from every personnel group and then the boots and the play action shots that come off it. But they're still running the wide zone theory, and their O-linemen are just getting after the wide zone, outside zone, whatever you want to consider it. They're repping that theory over and over and over again. And the only thing that's really changing is maybe how they're declaring the point, where the center's working to. Sometimes they'll put the H-back on the front side force player and make it a boss technique. Sometimes they'll insert him on a backer and they'll move the point one guy back with the center. So they're creating diversity within their offense off of that wide zone scheme. Yes, they do other things. Yes, they run other schemes, but their wide zone system, their outside zone system that they use and that they run creates so much diversity in the offense that that system makes it so tough to defend while their guys on offense are just repping the same thing over and over again. And the track of the back is the same, and what the back reads is the same, and the cuts he makes and when he makes them, those things are all the same so that they can just get good at what they're doing and really focus on, what as coaches, what we should be focusing on, and that is the techniques and the fundamentals and the things needed to be effective running a scheme. So, when you look at the diversity in that, and you look at where we've come 15, 20, 25 years removed, and at least for me as a coach in the game of football, you see how simplistic you can keep things on offense while still presenting multiple pictures to the defense. I'll never forget one of the first times, I think I've said it on other live videos before, but I'm a big Noel Mazzone fan. I studied a lot of Noel Mazzone stuff. And one of the first things I remember, the first clinic I got a chance to hear Coach Mazzone speak live at a Glacier clinic, one of the first things he talked about was we want to change the presentation, not the play. So they talked about all the different ways. Hey, Bill, how you doing, bud? He talked about all the different ways that they can wrinkle the presentation of the play, but run the same play. So they had, their hey, Brett, what's up, man? They had all the same plays with their running back tear motion and their key screens and all the different things they could do from one back and two back. And all they did was they changed some formations, they wrinkled some motions, and Coach Mazzone put it in the easiest way that I could possibly understand. would probably help you guys a little bit more if I had the headset on and the microphone on. So what we were talking about was offensive diversity and all the different ways that we could build diversity in. Because I did a video today on OT counter, GF counter, or GT counter, GF counter, and why I carry both of those plays. Sorry for the rookie mistake not having a headset on. I'm recording live on another app as well, and have first time I'm doing that, and have 50 things going through my mind. So if you missed the first 10 minutes, my daughter was in the video. One of my cats was in the video. But now that I have the mic on and you can actually hear what I am talking about. Hello, Willie Flynn. Hello, Dan Powers. Hello, David Duncan. Hello, Bill Eady. Hello, Brett Bessler. Thank you all you guys for being here. And now that I've got the microphone set up, and you guys know that I do these things live, and all the people on the Relevant app that I'm using know that I do these things live. So when I make mistakes, there really is no going back. There's no editing. So the first 6 minutes or 7 minutes of this video, I spoke without my headset on, without a microphone. So all you could see was my face rambling into the screen, and people probably didn't hear one thing. So just to reiterate what we were talking about, building diversity in the offense. How can you be more diverse? How can you create diversity, multiplicity? And today in the GTGF counter, what we talked about was the diversity. And sorry that I'm repeating myself on one app. If you still heard me in YouTube land, I don't know how, because I'm on a laptop, not a desktop. I have no idea. I guess my camera picks up audio as well. So now that we're all good, I don't have to apologize for rambling for 10 minutes and you guys not hearing. You heard everything. Awesome. So the diversity that we're building and how we're getting there, what we're trying to do. And it's not just one scheme. We can do it in power. We can do it in counter. We can. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, David. All the guys that are letting me know the YouTube land is so, my followers are so awesome. They're letting me know that they still heard me, even though I didn't have my headset on. So all good. Let's keep ripping what we're doing. Inside zone is another great way to build. Thank you, AV. Inside zone is another great way to build diversity. So you've got zone read. You can kick the backside with an H-back or a tight end. You can insert them on an inside linebacker. You can run your RPO systems. How you doing, Scott from Michigan? Love it. Just talked to a guy on guy sent me direct messages from Michigan. He's at a new school now. Wish I could tell you where. I don't remember, but have a lot of friends in Michigan. Good football played in Michigan. My best friend played for the Detroit Lions way back in the day, 95, 96, 97, 98. Stephen Boyd, number 57, inside linebacker. So I love all my people from Michigan. Thank you for tuning in. So, again, the 49ers with wide zone, all the things you can do off inside zone, all the things you could do off power counter, making it multiple with the read game, quarterback runs that you're building in, RPOs that you're building in. To me, where we are in football nowadays, the diversity that you can build into your offense is so much easier than it used to be. We can carry 2 or 3 schemes and be as multiple and diverse as we want to be. You can be as formationally diverse as you want to be. You can change your personnel groups and still get to the same root fundamentals of what you're trying to run. And that's the key, in high school, to me, at the lower levels especially. The key is the consistency, the repetitions, what you're doing, how you're doing it, to get all the looks covered that you need so your kids can see the things they need to see on Friday night. One of the things I was working on during the day today, I was taking a look at defensively, not to flip the script from the offensive stuff we're talking about, but I was trying to come up with a system behind our blitzes where I coded everything so that certain coverages behind our blitzes were always the same guys running the same assignments. So if you're familiar with like 3 under, 3 deep, 5-man pressures, right? The idea of omitting bend from bend, bang, bounce, condition on your backside, fit, shoulderness. Yeah, when you're running, if you're talking about duo stuff, you kind of lose one of those versions. So
you lose all three options of bang, bend, bounce. You usually just go to a bang or bounce. There is no bend. If that's not what you're talking about, David, then just let me know and I'll answer whatever it is you want to talk about. But on a defensive end, it's the same thing. I'm trying to simplify things for my kids. So I'm trying to come up with some, obviously some different pressures that we can run. But at the same time, I'm trying to coordinate each pressure with a coverage scheme behind it that involves the same players doing the same things with the same job. So if you're familiar with 3 under 3 deep and you're familiar with fire zone blitzes, right? One of the beauties of 3 under 3 deep fire zone blitzes is you have two seam droppers and you have a middle hole or a 3 dropper. And when you get into the personnel, you can draw up those blitzes a million different ways as long as you have guys that are 2 seam droppers and somebody that's a 3 hole dropper and you have 3 deep coverage behind it, right? That's the beauty of it. That's the multiplicity of it. That's how crazy you can get diagramming all that up. But at the high school level with the kids that we're coaching, I thought it would be easier if the blitz that I wanted to pair with 3 under 3 deep, if I had the same 3 under 3 deep guys, and I said, this player was always going to be 2 seam to the field, this player is always going to be 2 seam to the boundary, and this player is always going to be the 3 hole dropper. I'll lose the multiplicity of the drawings on napkins that you can create, and I'll lose the 1,000 blitz tracks you can come up with 3 under 3 deep. But within the couple blitz tracks I can use with the 5 players that are involved in the rush, the 6 guys in the coverage behind it, every time I call that coverage, those guys know exactly what they're going to play. And then I can rep that coverage with those players, and I can rep it to 2x2 and 3x1 and tight end sets, and I can up the reps of what I'm doing in that coverage because it's the same positions playing it. Now, what you're going to think for a second is you're going to think, well, coach, that every time they're going to know exactly the rotation, they're going to know what you're doing. Well, no, because where the multiplicity comes is now I'm going to build other coverages that I'm going to carry behind my blitzes. And I'm going to keep those coverages the same, but I'm going to be very multiple. So when I run a certain blitz pattern that I want to be 3 under 3 deep, I'm going to keep the same 3 under 3 deep players every time, and I'm going to keep the same 5 rushers every time. I'm going to switch some of the tracks up. Then when I want to be 4 under 2 deep, I'm going to keep the same guys involved in the 4 under 2 deep, and I'm going to change the patterns of the 5 guys that are pressuring. So now I've got 4 under 2 deep with the same guys repping the 2 seam hook drops, the same guys repping the trap flat, the same guys repping the deep half. And I can change the patterns with the single fire blitzer and the defensive lineman while keeping the same trap coverage. Then if I want to go to a 6-man hot pressure, okay, I can call it hot. And every time that I use the coverage hot, it's always going to be the same 2 vision and break players with the same 3 deep players. Now I can use those 6 blitzers, the 4 down and the 2 linebackers, whoever it is. I can come up with multiple tracks for their blitz. But when I say hot coverage, it's going to be the same guys involved in hot coverage playing the same techniques. Now, if I want to come up with a different 6-man pattern involving different people, I'll call it cold coverage. And now when I run cold coverage, it'll be the same guys involved in cold coverage playing the same responsibility every time. So now what I'm doing is I'm building 3 under 3 deep, 4 under 2 deep, one version of a 6-man zone pressure, another version of a 6-man zone pressure. Then when I call man free, it's the same guys playing man free every time. So it's my safeties and my will linebacker playing man free with my free safety as the post player and the Mike linebacker as the 5th rusher. I can change the tracks to make them as multiple as I want to, as long as I use the Mike every time and the will is a man free player. Now I can teach the coverage aspect of it so much more consistently because it's the same guys. Now, again, what do you lose? You lose the multiplicity of being able to play one free 15 different ways. It's one free and I blitz these guys, but the next time I blitz these guys, my one free is different. The next guy I blitz these guys, my one free is different. You'll lose some of the multiplicity in your system, but what you'll gain is consistency. And if you toy with it enough and you know your schemes enough, you'll have enough coverages behind pressures and you'll have enough tracks built in that when you really sit down and look at it, you'll be way more multiple than you think you are. But at the same time, you'll be so consistent and so reliable because every time you say hot, those guys know the coverage. Every time you say cold, those guys know the coverage. Every time you say one free, those guys know the coverage. Every time you say zero, they know the coverage. Every time you say spin, they know the coverage. So I sat down today and looked at all the different pressures and the single fires and double fires and adjacent backer blitzes and adjacent backer safety blitzes. And I looked at it and I tried to create a system of coverages behind it that would always stay the same based on the terminology I used. So trap was always the same. Six was always the same. Hot was always the same. Cold was always the same. One free was always the same. The reason I'm talking about that on a YouTube live that is offensive diversity is I'm building the same diversity in my defense while working on the consistency of repping things out in a very simple fashion. So, Scott's asking, how many base run theories do you carry, Coach? 4, I believe, usually at the most. So right now we are power, counter, buck, sweep, and my version of the duo play, which is a little bit different than the big boys run. The rules are the same in duo. It's gap down with a kick out and no puller. We use it as a read play. We use it as an RPO play. It's kind of our version of inside zone as a gap scheme, if you want to look at it that way. So we run power, counter, duo, and then we run buck sweep. Those are the 4 things that we carry right now. 2 years ago, we ran power, duo, buck sweep, and dart was our misdirection play, tackle wrap instead of counter. I've gone back to GT counter and GF counter for some different reasons. So right now we're currently not carrying the dart play, but most years going in, I have 4 base offensive run theories that I choose to use, and then I build in the multiplicity and I build in different components. So we won't run jet sweep, but yet in our read game, we'll run power read and counter read with jet motion so that we can give the ball to a jet player and we can get the ball to the perimeter without having to actually teach reach blocking or wide zone or outside zone blocking. So within the schemes that we run, we can still get the ball to a jet player. We can run toss read or counter toss read, which can get the ball on a perimeter very quickly without changing the blocking for the O-line. So to me, in what I believe in, what I do, what I've always done, keeping your O-line as consistent as possible, keeping how they block and what they block as consistent and as simple as possible, and then wrinkling the back end, your skill players, and adding quarterback reads and runs, and then adding RPOs onto the schemes that your O-line already blocks. To me, that is 100% the way I want to go coaching high school football. I talk about this on my channel and on stuff all the time. I don't ever recommend to anybody else how they should go. You need to go the way that you want to go. You need to do the things that you want to do, how you want to do them. I don't suggest any particular system. I don't say that you need to run these things in particular. I feel like for me, what I'm trying to get across to coaches all the time is how to do the things that you want to do while being sound and consistent and getting repetitions within your system. I've said this multiple times before. I don't care if you're wing tee. I don't care if you're air raid. I don't care if you are flex bone. To me, you coach what you believe in. You sell what you believe in to your players. There's a million ways to score points. There's a million ways to get first downs. I don't. I don't advocate one system. I don't sell one system. What I try to advocate is the thoughts and the theories and the practice behind how to get good within your system. So, for us, um, we are a version of a spread team. If you can define spread, I don't really know exactly from an offensive standpoint what spread is. I think spread was a more personnel formational based uh, terminology. Yes, the old Bruce Lee theory, Scott. You're 100% correct. I think spread was more of a label for formations and personnel groupings and people that tried to get guys in space. If you say you're a spread team, how do people know what your run game is or what your passing game is? So, like, I to this day, I still don't know exactly what spread is. I'll talk to people sometimes, and if they ask, "Hey, what do you do on offense?" Hey, we're a spread team that incorporates read game RPOs, and a lot of our passing concepts are air raid concepts. We're by no means an air raid team, but we incorporate a lot of air raid concepts into our passing game. So for me, I'm always about advocating how to get better at lower levels, how to try and get better or become a better coach at lower levels. I don't advocate 4-2-5, 3-3 stack, 3-4, 3 high safety. I talk about all of it. I can discuss all of it, but I think for me as a creator, as a content creator on YouTube, and then also as a coach that is trying to help the coaching society, to sell out to one system and say this is what you need to do, I think it just cuts my audience in half, if not down to 25%. People that want to follow anything that I do with PlayFast, they understand that I'm going to talk offense, I'm going to talk defense, I'm going to talk special teams, I'm going to talk practice plans, I'm going to talk organization. I've done weight room stuff before where I talked about how we're trying to make our weight room stuff replicate, the things that we need to do on the field. I am by no means a weight room guru. I am by no means a strength and conditioning coach. I get my advice and I study a lot of other people smarter than me. But I've done videos where I talk about taking the weight room to the field because, in my opinion, that is every bit, if not more important than the weight room itself. If you can't take the weight room to the field, you're wasting your time. If the things you're doing in the weight room don't carry over to techniques and fundamentals that you're teaching on the field, your kids are stronger, but where is that strength going to be applied? If you think about it, if you are working on bench press, you don't have one player on the field that's ever going to lay on his back and push somebody off of him. What you're doing is you're working on the physical strength to strike people with elbows in and thumbs up. But at the same time, you're doing it from a standing position. You're not doing it laying flat on your back. When you squat in the weight room, you're working on triple joint extension. You're working on flexibility. You're working on power and strength and developing all that and, getting kids to apply more force into the ground. But if your tackling technique and your blocking technique can't match the explosion of the squat or the clean or the deadlift or whatever lifts you do in a weight room, if you can't match that on the field, you're really doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. So, anybody that has watched PlayFast, YouTube, Coach Mac, you understand that I'm advocating several different things. I'm not a system guy. I don't sell a system. I don't sell a playbook. That's not what I'm here to do. What I'm here to do is to talk about the different ways that you can be multiple and you can be diverse. And we do it within the power play, like we already talked about. We do it within the counterplay, like I did a video on and talked about a little bit earlier. we have 4 to 5 different ways to run our duo play that builds diversity into the offense. So we'll kick an edge player, we'll read an edge player, we'll insert our sniffer and lock a front side and insert a sniffer and make it an ISO theory to throw RPOs off of. We'll lock a front side and arc release a sniffer down the seam, and we'll make it an ISO theory where we read the ISO backer and throw vertical shots to a sniffer running down the seam. We'll split flow and use the sniffer tight end to kick the backside of, or the front side of a duo play. Sorry. We'll trap the duo play sometimes. So, we'll take, the backside of a duo play and we'll climb the guard to the backer and we'll put the sniffer on the backside down technique, and we'll keep the front side the same, and we'll vary the front side or the back side, the side that we want to lock, and we'll trap somebody, or what we call, quote unquote, wham somebody. I did a video a couple weeks ago talking about crunching, a 3 technique where, you run your duo scheme and 4 of your 5 linemen block the same assignment, but your front side guard climbs and now your fullback pins a 3 technique or a nose inside. A little bit different than a trap theory. I learned it as a crunch theory. I learned it from the 49ers or somebody in the NFL, but we'll take our duo play and we'll wrinkle our duo play 15 different ways, so that the duo play in itself, 90% of the duo play is the same, but we're building flexibility with RPOs. We're building flexibility with different schemes. We're building flexibility into the duo play with slight tags and slight wrinkles that 90% of the guys are still executing the duo play, but maybe 10% have one change. Maybe the fullback and play side guard switch assignments, or, whatever it may be. But we're building the diversity into the duo play by being able to do all those different things. And what happens is now the multiplicity and the diversity comes from a scheme that you can rep over and over and over again, and just build a tag in to say, hey, when we say insert, we're going to lock the front side and insert the sniffer or the Y on the fullback. On the play side inside linebacker. When we say kick, we're going to run the duo scheme the way it's supposed to, but we're going to bring the sniffer from the front side or the back side to kick the front side 5 technique. If we say pin, we're going to run the duo scheme the way it's supposed to be, but maybe we're going to be in some type of compressed set, and we are going to pin the 5 technique inside so that the duo play has the chance to bounce outside. So we're going to build in all those tags to make the offense multiple and diverse without really changing schematically. We do it in the passing game with our 3-man scat theory. So one of our drop back passes for me, our in the shotgun punch 3-step theories, intermediate drop back, if you want to call it that. We run snag corner flat. So it's, Noma zone 3-man scat, Noma zone 3-man snag, whatever you want to call the theory. So we'll run that theory with snag by 1, corner by 2, flat by 3, the running back, whoever it may be. Within that theory, we'll build diversity into that theory where we'll run a wheel concept by number 2 instead of the corner, so that when we're seeing man-to-man or man-free teams, we create a natural rub with the snag and the wheel. The quarterback throws virtually the same ball. The corner route and the wheel route end up in the same part of the field. They're just maybe slightly different throws for the quarterback, but in theory, the wheel route is going to end up occupying the same spot that the corner route occupied. But now we've built in a pick, a rub, something that we can, build on off of that play. We'll run number 1 and number 2 on snag theories with number 3 to the slot, number 3 to the flat, sorry. And now we've built in a spacing concept. So off of that 3-man snag, we can tag that, and now we can run spot by 2, snag by 1, flat by 3, and now we've built in a spacing concept. We can run number 2 on the corner post route, So we can run snag by 1, flat by 3, corner post by 2 if we're facing middle of the field open teams. And now off of the traditional snag corner, we go corner post, all right, shake, whatever you want to call that route. And now we've built diversity and we've built a shot play to our slot versus middle of the field open. We'll run front side 3-man scat and we'll tag cross, Y or H cross to the backside. And now we've got 3-man scat to the front side while bringing a Y cross. So instead of teaching traditional Y cross, we'll build a cross theory into the snag theory. So, we'll do so many different things off of the 3-man scat Noma zone theory that we're building diversity into the passing game while running all those things off of the same, theoretically, the same route combination. So it all starts with snag corner flat, and then it goes to snag wheel flat, then it goes to snag spot flat, then it goes to snag shake flat, then it goes to snag Y cross with the corner route. So we'll build so many different things into the 3-man scat theory. And in my opinion, what we're doing is we're creating multiplicity and diversity while building off of one simple schematic idea. And for us, theoretically, most of the time, 1 run snag, 3 goes to the flat, whether it's a running back push motion or a 3-by-1 set. The tags are usually the 2 or the backside slot or whoever it may be on the cross. The only time, if we run it as a spacing concept, 2 gets the spot tag. If we run it as a wheel concept for the rubs, 2 gets the wheel tag. If we run it as a shake, middle of the field open shot concept, 2 gets the tag. The only time 2's really not getting the tag is when we run it as a cross concept, and now the tag goes to the backside inside most receiver. So the tags become very simplistic. We build the multiplicity in to the concept. The protection stays the same. It's half, we block half slide. So we're to the side the quarterback's going to be reading, we're man. Away from the quarterback, we're creating a zone side. So the center's going to turn that way, or the first uncovered lineman on the front side is going to turn and create the zone side. And now we either free release the back and throw hot, or we leave the back in to dual read and then release to the flat. So the protection stays the same. We're building in multiple theories off of the same concept. And for me, that's where you get into multiplicity. That's where you get into being diverse. That's where you get into creating and presenting different dilemmas of offensive football and dilemmas that you're creating for defensive football. Coastal Carolina's offense is great. There's a lot of things in there that are very simple. There's a lot of option theories built into what they do. There's some wrinkles off of midline where they're running midline with an H-back insert, very similar to how a flexbone team would insert a wing. They're reading end-man on the line. To me, Coastal Carolina's offense is very good, very dynamic, but if you really sit back and look at it, it's very simplistic in nature, and I think that's what makes it very good. There's multiple option theories. There's first level reads, second and third level reads. There's RPOs. There's shot plays. To me, they're constantly putting a lot of different defensive players and defensive coordinators in some type of conflict, and that, in the way the game is played today, in my opinion, that is how you create good offenses. You create conflict for a defender, and whether it be a 5 technique that you're reading, a 3 technique that you're reading, a 1 technique that you're reading, an inside backer that you're reading, an outside backer, an overhang that you're reading, you're putting some player in some type of conflict, and you're making reads off of that. And I think the beautiful thing about that system of offense and that style of offense is if you teach numbers correctly and your quarterback has answers pre-snap and post-snap, the beauty of option football is if the quarterback reads things correctly, you should have a chance on every play, and from a defensive standpoint, I always try to get people to understand that defensively, you really dictate who gets the football when you're playing an option offense. So if you're playing a flex bone triple option offense, a lot of people think that the quarterback makes all the reads and decides where the ball goes. And there's some truth to that. But in theory, how the defense plays the veer play, the inside veer play or the outside veer play, or how the defense plays the midline play, the defense actually dictates where the ball goes. So the offense and the quarterback makes the ultimate decision, but he makes the decision off the reaction of the defense. And if you're good on defense, you'll have one or two different ways to play each option concept so that the read is not the same for the quarterback every single time. So it's simple things like that. If you're asking me again about Coastal Carolina, I think the offense is simplistic in nature. I just think they do such a great job with wrinkles and options and conflicts that it constantly stresses the defense. And I think they do a good job with tempo, changing the tempo. They can go fast on you when they want to. They can slow down when they want to. So I think it's very good theoretically. I think it's very good philosophically. And at the end of the day, I think they do a great job coaching undersized linemen and putting undersized linemen in a position to be effective. And they must have great position coaches and guys that are really good at teaching techniques and fundamentals and leverage and footwork, because they are outmatched. They were outmatched in that BYU game and they got it done. So my hat's off to Coastal Carolina. I think they created a little bit of buzz in the football world that was different. I think right now, just like you mentioned, Nathaniel, I think if you say Coastal Carolina offense, I think everybody has a vision in their mind, kind of what it is. It's kind of flavor of the month. And they had a lot of success. So I think you're going to see a lot of teams try and do the same thing. Old school freeze option is awesome. Same key, different reactions from the defense. The repetition that you're creating for the quarterback and the B back and the A back, or the tailback and the fullback, the repetitions that you're creating for the O line, it all makes it such a beautiful theory, because you're repping things over and over again, and then all of a sudden that week the defense has not enough time to rep what they need to rep to face freeze option or midline or veer or outside veer or trap option. So like I said, it's one of those things where you just have to keep your mind open as a coach and as an offensive coach. I just get so upset when I get that people have something that they believe in, and I get that people have something that they are loyal to. But every time a job comes open at the D1 level and somebody on Twitter posts a picture of Paul Johnson and says, "Hey, I think it's time," or when Georgia Tech doesn't have success and they post a GIF of Paul Johnson saying, "Hey, do you miss this guy?" To me, I respect the hell out of the loyalty. I respect the fact that you love that scheme. But to force feed it down everybody's throat over and over and over again, to me, it just doesn't make sense. And I've never got a chance to talk to Paul Johnson, but I would think to some extent he may tell some of the loyal followers of his that if they could have wrinkled that offense at all, he might have stayed longer, or he might get more head coaching jobs. The fact that they're so true and loyal to that system may actually hurt them. And I know a lot of people out there are going to disagree with that. And I know a lot of people out there are going to, have their belief in certain systems. I feel the same way about Mike Leach. I think Mike Leach would win. And again, when I say this is opinion based. I'm a high school football coach who has lost a ton of games doing YouTube videos. For me to critique Mike Leach, I want you to understand that I am giving you my opinion on what I think. And in no way am I critiquing and saying what Mike Leach should do, because Mike Leach is 1,000 times smarter than me. Mike Leach makes a hell of a lot more money than I do. But in my opinion, if he could wrinkle the air raid ever so slightly, like Lincoln Riley has done at Oklahoma, I think, he would win so many more games. I think he would create such a dynamic offense. People hate defending his offense enough already, but it's so loyal to its base structure, which is one of the reasons why it's so good. Don't get me wrong, but it's so loyal to its structure and fundamentals that after a while, people develop a way to defend that. And there aren't enough wrinkles or answers to it. And if he, again, my opinion, not that Mike Leach is ever going to listen or watch this video or give a damn. Those guys at that level, it's very simple. They're going to tell you point blank, they really only value the opinion of people that they're willing to seek opinions from. So, if this was ever to get out there and heard by somebody in that system, they may not value my opinion because they're not seeking my opinion. And I don't blame them one bit. But it's still my opinion that if they could wrinkle and make slight changes to that offense to create a little more multiplicity and diversity, a little more diversity in the run game, I think they'd win more games. I think somebody commented on one of my videos today talking about, well, how do you defend the air raid when it's constantly 4 and 5 receiver sets and they're all releasing in the routes? And, my answer was, tell me the last true air raid team that's won a national championship. I realize that national championships are based a lot on talent. And I realize that if Alabama or Clemson wanted to go 100% air raid, they still could have a chance to win a national championship. I get that. I understand that. But when I try to defend a point to somebody and somebody, talks about a certain system and says, well, just imagine if this school ran this system. And in defense, I say, well, tell me the last time that system has won a national championship. Maybe talent has something to do with that. I get it. Navy and Army and Air Force are not going to be in a national title picture every year just based on who they have to recruit. I have the utmost respect for the academies and how they play football and how tough they are. And I absolutely love watching academies run triple option, but they're never going to be in a national title picture. And that's not because of the triple option, but it's because of the talent, pool that they're picking from. But my argument would be, if Alabama can get the best players in the world, if triple option flexbone was a way to win a national championship, why wouldn't they run it? On social media right now, everybody is posting the high school clinic that Nick Saban did virtually and how he talked about the changes he made on defense and why he made them. Well, he made them because the game changed. He made them because he figured out what he needed to do to win on offense and defense. Now, when you look at that and you think about that, if the flexbone triple option was the best way to win a national championship, Nick Saban would have made an adaptation to that offense. Now, the counter argument from flexbone triple option people is going to be, the reason he doesn't do that is he can't recruit Devontae Smith and Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. And I get that counter argument. I'm not ever going to argue with that. But you still have to take into consideration, every time a job opens and you post a GIF of Paul Johnson, your loyalty to that scheme is, undeniable. Your loyalty to Paul Johnson is undeniable. Sometimes I just don't know if that's the right tweet to send out, because I don't know that necessarily is the answer. I don't know that, that guy, that system is the answer all the time. But again, you can, you have to have respect for people's loyalty, and you have to have respect for people that are true believers in a scheme. And I would never, ever tell somebody to switch schemes because of what I believe in. But I have some different beliefs. I believe that offense can be multiple. I believe it can be diverse. I believe it can be different. I believe you can carry a lot of things in your offense as long as theoretically you're in the same genre. So to me, when I'm teaching a quarterback, if I have a quarterback that has the ability to run the football and the ability to throw the football, when I teach him how to read a 5 technique to run power read, and I teach him how to read an overhang to run an RPO, to me, I'm teaching him the same thing. The ball handling mechanics are different. The mechanics inside the mesh are similar. All right. But at the same time, I'm teaching him double option football to read a defensive player and put the football where the defensive player is not. So, in principle, theoretically, I'm teaching double option football. I'm teaching my quarterback to put the football where the defense is not. Choose where to put the football based on what the read defender chooses. So, to me, you can be multiple and diverse and do all those things. And, you know, be schematically hybrid, be schematically chameleon, be different things. That's just my opinion. The 98 Falcons had Byron Hanspard and disposed the wrinkle you're on about. Yeah, you can look back at shoulda, coulda, woulda. I actually believe if an NFL team, when Tim Tebow came out of college, if an NFL team would have built a roster and an offense around the skill set of Tim Tebow and maybe go out and get Pat White as your backup or RG3 or whatever, and your roster in the NFL is made up of Tim Tebow, Pat Wright, and RG3, and your playbook is designed around the skill set of those three, I honestly think they could have had success in the NFL. I think part of the problem for a guy like Tim Tebow, did he have throwing mechanic issues? Yes. Did he have issues reading some defenses? Yes. But at the same time, did he have an undeniable, unmatchable skill set and the ultimate ability that every one of us tries to instill in every player we've ever coached, the desire to compete at an insane level, the desire to win no matter what it takes. Do I think you could have built an NFL roster and an NFL offense around that? I certainly do. Where are you going to put multi-millions of dollars in quarterbacks that are getting hit a bunch? Probably not. That's probably why business owners and GMs, that's probably why business owners and GMs decided not to take on three quarterbacks, similar skill sets as a Tim Tebow and a Pat White and an RG3. Simply because I think you'd have to build your whole offense around that, and I think you'd have to build your talent around that system, and you'd have to sell into that system for the next X amount of years and have a coach and a coordinator that's going to sell into that or buy in or sell that system. But I think if you look at it from that perspective and you kind of flip the narrative a little bit, I think that Tim Tebow could have had a longer tenure in the NFL. I think RG3 could have had more success. I think Pat White could have had more success. Yes, they were flawed with some throwing mechanics. Yes, they were probably flawed with some footwork mechanics. Yes, they were probably flawed with some read mechanics. But there's a lot of really, really smart dudes in the NFL that probably could have taught those guys to read defenses if they would have put the time and the effort into it. But, again, that's just my opinion. That's that's my take on a situation like that. But if you really think about it, look at what Lamar Jackson brings to the table and some of the things they can do. And when NFL teams see that offense that is different and their schemes are so structured on attacking a pocket quarterback that plays under center, defenses really struggle with that type of player because for so long the NFL functioned in the same schematic way. Under center, pocket passer, you know where the launch point is. You know that he's never going to carry the ball. It's 11 on 10 in essence in the run game because other than a bootleg fake, that guy never has the football. He cannot hurt you with his legs. Just think how diverse NFL teams could become if they would take a chance on some of those players. I'm going to turn my Relevant app off right now. If any of you, it's a free app on a phone. If any of you have not tried it, download Relevant app, RELEVNT. It's like a live chat. It archives this YouTube live audio is going to archive within a minute. And as soon as it archives, I can share it on Twitter. I can share it. Other people can come and see it if they're on Relevant. So check out the Relevant app. That's my plug for the Relevant app. I'm going to turn that off right now. And I'm going to make sure that I save that stream. And now, as soon as I turn that off and save that stream, it's up and ready to go. Van Pelt from CSU Rams in that quarterback room, if we're talking Duel or Moreno. Yeah, there's a lot of coaches out there you'd probably want in that quarterback room. The guys that coached Kaepernick back in the day that were on that Nevada staff, I would say you'd probably like in that room. The guys that were on the Gator staff when they had Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, and a quarterback coach that had to coach two different styles, one with Chris Leak, one with Tebow. They got to be pretty good, which it was probably Dan Mullen at that time. But I'm not going to argue with, I think Van Pelt and I think CSU does a great job. And I think Van Pelt is those guys, those types of players, those types of coaches, are the guys that you want in your room if you're building that kind of offense. And those are the players that you would go after. I think the Trey Lance kid has a chance. Obviously, Justin Fields just ran. Justin Fields just ran 4.44. If you want to play football that way, I think those guys can be very good. I think you just have to buy into doing things that fit that skill set. So while we're on that topic for about the last 10 or 15 minutes, let's just flip the script a little bit. What do you guys think about all these pro days and the combine? And do you think GMs, head coaches, and NFL personnel put way too much stock into pro days and combines? My opinion is 1,000%. They put too much time and effort into pro days and combines. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with that opinion. I think you should draft players based on a body of work, playing the game of football for 4 or 5 years. I think you should do psychological evaluations. I think you should do background checks. But to watch these guys run 40s and throw routes in shorts and do drills in shorts when you have 3 to 4 years worth of film of them playing the game of football, to me, it is absolutely ludicrous and absurd that guys will change picks based on somebody's pro day. And again, when I say this, I want everybody to understand that I am a high school coach. I am on YouTube. They make way more money than I do. They're probably way smarter than I am. I think it is complete lunacy to change your mind on a pick based on a pro day or a combine if you have 3 to 4 years worth of film. Now, if it comes down to two guys that you evaluate the same on film, you may want to judge their 40, their broad jump, and their vertical if you have the same exact evaluation on those two players. Other than that, I think your evaluation ought to be made on how they play. So, spring, I got my first volunteer position. Any advice for a 21-year-old aspiring coach? Get on a staff somewhere, start at the bottom, do every job you can possibly do it to the best of your ability, be seen more than you're heard, be willing to do laundry, be willing to do weight room stuff, be willing to do scout team. Don't walk in there as a 21-year-old and say you want to coordinate. Don't walk in there as a 21-year-old and say that the head coach should be running all these schemes. Get on a staff, volunteer, whatever you need to do, work your ass off. And again, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen more than you talk, and I think you'll be just fine. Darius Haywood-Bay is a great example. Way back in the day, again, my best friend, Stephen Boyd, played at Boston College, and then he played with the Detroit Lions for 7 years. And a teammate of his was a workout warrior. His name was Mike Mamula. The Eagles took him very high in the draft. He had very average college film. He went to the combine and absolutely smoked it. The Eagles took him really high, and the guy had like a 2 or 3 year NFL career. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. These guys are playing football at the highest level with 80 to 90 games, or I'm sorry, 30 to 40 games on film. And you are going to change the way you think because of a workout. To me, it's just complete lunacy. I get it. There's a lot of money. I get it. There's a lot of money involved. I get it. These organizations are making multi-million-dollar decisions, and I get it that the decisions they make are theirs to make and not mine because I'm not a personnel guy. I'm not an NFL coach. But my opinion is what my opinion is, and if you're gonna argue certain players off of a pro day, to me, I just think it's stupid. You look at Kyle Pitts from Florida. I don't need to go to a pro day. I don't need to go to a combine. I'm going to draft, if I need that position, I'm going to draft Kyle Pitts as high as I can possibly get him because the tape that I put on tells me that he is an unbelievable football player. I don't care. Yeah, he runs a 4.4, and it's great on social media. I didn't need to see him run a 4.4. I've seen him get open against every team he played. I've seen him separate. I've seen him make catches in tight windows. I've seen him block people. I don't need anything else. I don't need to watch anything else. So, I'm always interested in other football people's opinions. Guys like us, guys that are coaching lower level football that are fans of the NFL, what is your take on what these guys, how they evaluate people, or, are we crazy with the combine because it's a moneymaker and the NFL network? Are we crazy with these pro days because it's a moneymaker? I say yes. I think we're wasting our time. I live in Jacksonville. I don't need to see one more thing. Trevor Lawrence is the guy I'm taking. I'm not arguing with anybody about it. I don't need to see anything else. I don't care what happened at an Elite 11 camp 7 years ago. I don't care, that Justin Fields beat him one time in a game. On film, 30 to 40 games. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in the draft. You have to build a franchise. You have the number one pick. That is the number one pick every day of the week, in my opinion. I wouldn't even, to me, I'm not even thinking. All my eggs are now going to be in that second pick in the first round, what we're going to do in the second and third round, what we're going to do in free agency. There is not even an argument to me with that pick. If you want to talk about Fields or Zach Wilson or Mac Jones, that's a completely different argument. I think that's going to take a lot of evaluation. And I think teams are going to hit or miss on those picks. If your head coach coaches the same position, always have your guys doing his favorite drill when he checks. Yeah, that's a great point, David. If you know what your head coach likes, or if you know the buzzwords that your head coach uses when you're doing drills and he's around, throw those buzzwords out there. Do the drills that he likes. A lot of head coaches will be into that. For me, I'm actually a guy that likes it if you buck the system a little bit and you go a different direction, as long as you know what you're doing. And then, to me, I like guys that don't have a problem standing up for themselves and trying to answer a question if we want to debate something, if they can back up their opinion with validity. So I've changed my mind several times throughout my career based on an assistant coach's or a coordinator's argument when they backed it up and said, hey, I think this is better for us for these reasons. I do it in the weight room 1,000 times because I have a lot of assistant coaches that have always been better in the weight room and more knowledgeable in the weight room than I am. So those guys will come in and I'll just kind of hand the keys over to them all the time. And I'll say, hey, man, it's yours. Run it. Just tell me what you're doing. And then, like today, for argument's sake, my assistant coaches were doing something in there and I just didn't like the way they were doing it. I loved what they were doing. I loved the energy that they brought to the table. But the way it was going, I didn't think there were certain things that I thought we were missing. So I just walked up to him very simply and said, hey, look, I think you need to do it this way. And here's why. Okay, I love what you're doing. Don't change what you're doing, but maybe wrinkle how you're doing it. I think it would be a little bit more effective. And I walked away. I didn't say another word. So, yes, that's a good piece of advice, David. Way too much stock. I understand bio info and all these scripted pro day workouts equals zero in reference. I love bios. I love psychological evaluations. I love background checks. All the other stuff to me is a waste of time. Yes, I agree that Senior Bowl should hold weight in some draft stuff, especially with lower level kids that are finally getting a chance to compete against higher level kids like the center from Wisconsin Whitewater and several other 1AA, D2, and D3 players that now get a chance to compete and show that they can compete. If I have a guy that plays high level Division I football for 4 years and has had an extremely productive career, I don't care if he has a bad week at the Senior Bowl. My evaluation is not going to change all that much because you got to think about it. If you have an O lineman that has 3 to 4 years worth of tape pass setting in games, and he's given up very few sacks, and let's just say he's playing in the SEC or the ACC, and he goes to the Senior Bowl and they do one-on-ones and he has a bad week in one-on-ones, are you going to drastically change your evaluation that much based on some of those drills when in a live game the guy has given up 2 or 3 sacks in his career against quality Division I competition? I agree with you that the Senior Bowl is better than pro days and combines. I agree with you that the Senior Bowl is really good for lower level players, but those guys that have already put their resume on tape for 3 or 4 years, I don't care what they do for argument's sake. Now, the only thing I would care about at the Senior Bowl is if they act like an idiot during practice or if they respond to coaching in a certain way that I never had a chance to see behind closed doors. That to me is almost part of a psychological evaluation and part of a background check. So if that happens, I agree with you that that will have more weight into it. But one Senior Bowl week, one Hula Bowl week, one whatever week that is, if I got 30 or 40 games on a guy and I love what he does, that's not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind, David, but I do think that there is a time and a place for nakeds, and here's why. If you use certain people in front of your quarterback on bootlegs, if you pull guards or you use a back or somebody, if that's a tendency for anybody, it may actually take them to the ball as opposed to the misdirection of a waggle boot naked concept. So I've always been a big fan of naked bootlegs because I want all the action of the run play going in one direction so that to me, a naked bootleg is a call you make when a coach or somebody on your staff tells you that the backside 5 technique absolutely does not honor any of the quarterback's play action fakes. And if you want to go to the old days, when guys were under center, we would always, if we were running any of our run plays, if we were running inside zone, wide zone, power, counter, our quarterbacks would always naked boot away from the action. And we'd always have a coach, and I was this coach in college. Somebody would always be checking the backside 5 technique and how they handle the quarterback. And the first time, the first time that I feel like the 5 technique doesn't honor the quarterback, I'm going to call the naked. And the reason, that's the reason I think you carry nakeds. But I have absolutely no problem on sprint out, putting people in front of the quarterback. I have no problem on some play action bootleg stuff, pulling a guard and putting him in front of the quarterback. I am not going to change your mind. I don't want to change your mind. But let me just add to the fact that I think you should throw some nakeds in there because they're complete misdirection. They're 100% misdirection. So what else do we got out there? It's been about an hour and 15 minutes, 10:15. I have work tomorrow, and we have district weightlifting tomorrow. So I'd love to talk all night to you guys, but I have got to shut this down soon. Is there anything else? Any other questions while you're on? Appreciate everybody being on. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. I know this was impromptu. I know that I didn't give you any fair warning. The old Charlie Ward split back stuff that FSU did was phenomenal. If you really want to go back, look at FSU when Mark Rick was the coordinator, and look at some of their sprint draw series stuff in the eye when they were 20 personnel, twins open, two backs in the eye, and they ran a lot of sprint out and sprint draw. Go back and look at that series. I can't tell you the exact years, but go back and look at that series with FSU. I think that's a phenomenal offense. Say you're the Jets and can take whoever you feel is the second best quarterback in the draft. Would you do that and put another young quarterback into a weak roster? Or do you try and build your roster elsewhere? If you're not, if you're the Jets and I believe I believe Sam Darnold's still on the roster. If you're the Jets and you take a quarterback, you have a good evening, Willie. If you're the Jets and you take a quarterback, you got to move Sam Darnold. You got to get rid of him. You 100% take a quarterback because Sam Darnold's not the guy. If Sam Darnold's the guy, I don't think you go quarterback. I don't care what Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or anybody else do on a pro day. The only thing that might change my mind is if the Jags didn't take Trevor Lawrence. I may change my opinion. But, if you're the Jets, I think, and again, I'm not the biggest NFL guy in the world. If Sam Darnold is not on the Jets roster, then I totally apologize to you. But if Sam Darnold is on the Jets roster at this point, which to my knowledge, I think he is, if Sam Darnold's on the roster and you make a move at quarterback, you have to move him. I don't see any other way. Whatever compensatory picks or draft picks you can get, you've got to move them. You can't draft a guy that high, draft another guy that high, and then say you're going to have, a first-round pick as a backup quarterback. Not going to work. The only problem if you're the Jets, and same problem the Jags are going to have, is if you're not very good right now, the franchise quarterback that you draft is going to struggle, and he's going to struggle often. Can you get him through those lean years? And can you get him to a point when the roster is good enough that you can win games? That's the only question I would have. I think they basically made up their mind prior to pro day, all the film studies they've done, etc. Pro day is show and tell, typically confirms. I agree with you, Dan J, to a point, but I am going to disagree with you to a point because I think there are certain combine workouts and certain pro day workouts that the workout warriors and the combine freaks, I think there are certain guys that flip the script on some coaches and some personnel people and some general managers and some owners. And I 100% believe that there have guys that have taken lower evaluations on the board based on a pro day or a combine. And some of them have worked and some of them have not. Again, do I agree with you that a lot of their scouts have made their mind up on their evaluations already? Yes. Do I agree with you that pro days sometimes are show and tell? Yes. Do I think pro days sometimes become a money grab? Yes. Do I think the combine being on the NFL Network is a money grab? Yes. But you got to think the NFL fan bases and the college fan bases are so rabid and so adamant about their teams that in the offseason they're dying to watch anything. That's why I think you see pro days and combines. That's why there's rivals ratings. That's why there's Under Armour stuff in high school. When colleges recruit kids, all the fans want to know is how many stars does he have? So you're going to let some guy at Rivals that may have never coached football down in his life put 4 stars on a player, and then you're going to think that you recruited a great player because he's got 4 stars. I'm not buying that. I've been coaching this game for a long time. I don't buy stars. I don't buy ratings. I think Alabama just proved that with Mac Jones and Devontae Smith. I don't think either one of them were 5 stars, even though they have a ton of 5 stars. I think Iowa State's done a great job proving that the last 5, 6 years. I think Michigan State always did a great job proving that when D'Antonio was in his heyday and they were winning a lot of games. I think stars and ratings and pro days and combines, I think that's for the fan base. I think that's for people that are just clamoring for anything to watch in the off season. And there's enough money out there and a big enough market that they're going to keep doing it. But if you were asking me, I would do away with pro days and combines, and I would do nothing but psychological evaluations and background checks, and everything else I did would be drafting a kid on his body of work as a player, and then maybe a Senior Bowl or a Hula Bowl or whatever the old games were. Or that's what I would do. But that's probably why I'm not an NFL guy. So any young quarterback struggling with a bad team like Cincy with Burrow, great potential, but he's going to take more licks until they surround him with more talent. Yeah, I agree with you. There's always going to be those guys, or you can go throughout the history of the NFL and count the guys that probably got punch drunk before they ever got a chance to get really good. You can look at the guys like Peyton Manning that threw 1 million interceptions in their rookie year and turned out to be, one of the best to ever play the game. You can look at guys like Dan Marino that got drafted later because he had a mediocre senior year, and the knock on him was he couldn't read defenses. Just so many different factors that you can point to when taking quarterbacks. I live in Jacksonville. I'm a Jacksonville fan right now since I moved here the last 20 years. They've missed at the quarterback position 10 times or however many times, and the franchise has struggled the entire time. They've got to hit at that position. They've got to have one good evaluation. They've got to make it at that position, and maybe the roster has something to do with why those guys are failing, but at the end of the day, they're missing at that position, and because they're missing at that position, they can't build a roster around that position because every time they try to do that, they miss. So I think, the Burrows of the world and those type guys, if they're your guy, hopefully they stay healthy, knock on wood. But I think you deal with the early struggles as long as they're healthy. And then you'd be amazed how many guys will come to play for your franchise if you have that piece. So, when you're looking at a team like Jacksonville with no state income tax, first pick in the draft, and it may be Trevor Lawrence, there's going to be a lot of skilled players, receivers, backs, tight ends that in the near future are going to think about Jacksonville in free agency, even though they've struggled with the last however many years outside of 1 or 2 playoff runs. They've struggled as a franchise. Most receivers, tight ends wouldn't want to come to Jacksonville. But when you throw in the fact that Trevor Lawrence is going to be here, throw in the fact that Urban Meyer is going to be here, and you throw in the fact that there's no state tax, so you're going to make more money in your contract, it now makes Jacksonville a lucrative place to be. So, but again, guys, I appreciate everything you guys do for me. I appreciate you following Play Fast Football. Appreciate you jumping on this YouTube Live with me every time I do YouTube Live. Appreciate you watching all the videos. I appreciate your comments more than you'll ever know. Every time I do a stream, I learn something. You guys give me something to think about. Even if I answer one of your questions, you guys always give me something to think about. Scepter, would love to coach college football again with my family. I don't think it's an option right now. I don't think there's anybody out there lining up to hire a 48-year-old high school coach and pay me the money that they're paying some of these other guys. Do I think I can go out there and recruit with anybody? Yeah. Do I think I can make a university and myself sellable to young kids? Yes, I do it every day at my program. Do I have the personality to sell it? Yes. Do I think I have the skill set to coach at that level? Yes. But right now, I don't think there's anybody out there that are looking for a 48-year-old high school coach. That's, it took me 20 years to win 100 games. So that's an average. I average 5 wins a season. So I'm just fortunate enough to do what I do on YouTube and do what I do with Play Fast Football. I'm fortunate enough that there's people out there willing to listen to what I want to do. But I don't think, Scepter, you're going to see me coaching college football anytime in the near future. If Nick Saban asks, yes, I will answer. If Dan Mullen asks, yes, I will answer. If Norvell at Florida State asks, yes, I will answer. But it would have to be the right fit for the right money with the situation I have with my family right now. So thank you for the confidence. Thank you for asking that question. But the answer right now, in all honesty, is probably no. I'll probably never coach college again. And 100% honesty, I am fine with that. I could retire as a high school football coach when my time comes and I'm not healthy enough to do this anymore, or I'm old enough that I want to retire. I could retire as a high school football coach. I could retire at the high school that I'm at right now. People ask me all the time, why don't you go to Georgia and try and make $95,000? I don't want to move. People ask me why I don't go to Texas and make $150,000. I don't want to move. There's where I'm at in Florida. There's not a lot of jobs around where you're going to make big time money. So I am completely happy where I am at. I am happy with what I am doing. And if the right opportunity comes along, I'll listen. But I don't know if you're going to see that happen. On that note, thank you, everybody, for what you do for PlayFast. Thank you for being here tonight. Any messages, comments, videos you want to see, just leave a comment. Let me know. I'll do the best I can. Have a great night. Be safe. Take care of each other out there. If you see any idiots in the world that are, bigots or racists or doing anything that you don't approve of, like the video I saw today of somebody in New York attacking an Asian person with a security guard standing right there. Our role in this world is to help other people. So if you get a chance to help other people, do the best you can, take care of each other, and we'll all be in a better place. So with that being said, guys, you won't play well until you play fast, and I will see you guys next time.